try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We got to add a little addendum to the show map today. So we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been.
Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto Live. This is your week daily morning show where we bring you the latest in everything Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. And in today's episode, we have one question to ask. Is Bitcoin dead? Is Bitcoin dead? Do you think it's dead? Do I think it's dead? Does Jeb think Bitcoin is dead? Yesterday, Bitcoin dropped down to $60,001 on Coinbase, $60,081 on 2Bit, and almost exactly $60,000 on a multitude of different platforms. And everybody is terrified. God, everybody hates each other right now. Everybody is so freaked out. A moment of silence. Genuinely, like before we get started, I know a lot of you are hurting a lot right now. I know a lot of you are in a lot of pain. Some of you guys took out loans up at the top to buy Bitcoin, and so not only are you down 50% on Bitcoin, you're actually down more than 50% because you're on leveraged losses. Some of you guys have tried to long the bottom, catch the bottom for a massive reversal. There's a lot of pain right now. You know, $1 trillion is gone in market cap, at least in the crypto market over the last 4 months. And so the first thing I want to say before we get into the analysis here is that I see that you're in pain. And I think we all kind of know that we're in pain. This is a community. There's no hate here. I'm not going to hate on you. Hopefully you won't hate on me. Let's not hate on each other. People are hurting. And that's real. Moments like this is exactly why I started this channel. You know, I started this channel 8 years ago because I realized that a lack of strong financial foundations in my life was hurting me and the people around me. And so I decided one day I was going to do something about it. So I started a YouTube channel, I started investing, I started trading, I started doing all this stuff in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies, and now I've made it for myself and I'm doing okay. But I'm here to tell you that this is, after only 8 years, this is my first bear market where I'm not scared. The first two bear markets I went through, I was freaking terrified because I did not have enough cash in savings. I was overinvested. I just was not set up right. And I'm happy that I am in this cycle, but it's okay if you're not. You got to understand something. You're human. You did not come out a finished product. You were not born being Buffett. Buffett wasn't born being Buffett. Sailor wasn't born being Sailor. We've got a 5-month-old. We've got a 5-month-old. Her name's Serenity, and she's very serene so long as you're holding her. You know what I'm saying? She doesn't know how to trade. She doesn't know how to invest. She doesn't know how to manage money. She doesn't need to. That's what her daddy's there for. My point to you is that just because you're not a finished product yet doesn't mean you're a loser and a failure. Because I know that somebody under the sound of my voice is beating themselves up right now because they made a big mistake and they took out loans up at the top. And they see me doing okay. And you might think that I'm trying to gloat, and I'm not. I want you to understand that I know what I'm doing and I know what I'm talking about, and you should listen to me so you can have peace. Your wife is going to be very happy with you if you subscribe to our channel. I promise you. But what I want you to understand is that at the end of the day, this is a learning process. And if you're down 100,000, 200,000, 500,000, whatever it may be, there's a lesson in that. Either you literally did nothing wrong, or there's a very real possibility you did. And instead of condemning yourself, I invite you to come along with us as we learn how to do better. The journey towards financial sovereignty doesn't just mean having sovereignty over our wealth. It also means having sovereignty over our mind. And it is so easy for us to get in this self-condemnation cycle. And it doesn't help. It really doesn't. We have to be sovereign over those temptations to beat ourselves up. I've watched people off themselves, and I only say it that way so YouTube doesn't take the video down. I've watched people hurt themselves because of stuff like this. And it's sad. It's terrible. It's absolutely devastating. Please be careful out there. Please know that I see you, but it doesn't matter if I see you. But what does matter is that Jesus Christ sees you, and he loves you. And maybe you need a friend right now. Maybe you need a savior right now to talk to. So we're about to get into the content, but I just implore you, don't beat yourself up. If you made a mistake, don't beat yourself up. Get back up, dust yourself off, keep on going. You can do this. Let's get started. Let's see everybody who's in chat. Our baseball's in chat, so give us some good news, Jeb. Gonna do it. MKYBM said, some wild days, but just like you predicted. Yes, it was. Let's see. Jacob Chamberlain is in chat. It's 4-year cycle, bro. Yep. You called 60K just yesterday. I sure did. Hurting and there's a little pain. There's a little pain, but see opportunity. That's right. Turned into a Joel Osteen show. I am not a fan of Joel Osteen. I have never endorsed Joel Osteen. I want absolutely nothing to do with him. The prosperity gospel is heresy from the pits of hell. Can I be more clear on that? I'm not sure if I could possibly be more clear than that. No, I do not endorse Joel Osteen at all. When you feel bad, take a look at Tom Lee. He's $6 billion underwater. Oh, my goodness. Sailor's down. Yeah, Sailor's in the negative right now. Let's see. Farmer Muck's in chat. Yeah, good to see all of you guys. All right, guys, let's go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and dive right on into it. Bitcoin is currently trading at $67,000 after plunging down to a low of $60,000 last night at about 7:30. And ever since then, we did actually finally have a V-bottom. Because, you see, the thing about Bitcoin is that it was... Whoa. I'm just massive over here. Let's fix this. Sorry about that. My camera has been giving me some trouble. There we go. The thing about Bitcoin is that we've been watching it drop and drop and drop and drop and drop. And our prediction over on X, we've been very clear for the last several days that the bear market bottom is probably going to be at or near 58K. At this point, with the velocity and and just the violence that Bitcoin went through to get to 60,000, it's very possible that it's in the lower 50s, down towards like 50 to 53,000 or so. But this bottom is probably going to hold at least for a little while. This was most likely, we can't be sure that it's over yet, but this was most likely what is going to end up being the 3 wave of an Elliott wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 wave. As you can see here, we discussed the idea of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, giving us the actual overall bear market structure, but we discussed that when we were looking at a bottom at like 75. Now that we've dropped down to 60, that 4 wave can be pretty large. And also the 3 wave is pretty large. So I would anticipate that you're going to see the rest of the bear market follow through on a pattern like this. And if you want evidence of why that might take place, we've seen the exact same thing happen in every single bear market to date. We saw our classic Elliott wave 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pattern take place right here in the last bear market, which would indicate that Bitcoin is probably somewhere about right here. A couple of days ago, I was saying that Bitcoin was probably somewhere about right here if we were to overlay the current bear market on top of the 2022 bear market. But we're probably somewhere about right here at this point. And why is that important? The reason that that's important is because if we bring the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 over here and overlay it on Bitcoin, and I'll defend the thesis as to why we should be comparing markets like this here in just a little while, what you're going to see is that if we were to scale it down a little bit, I don't know if we're going to be able to do that, but what you could see here if we were to just kind of be able to zoom in on this, you'll see that there's a little bit more of a correction here. So let's look at the previous bear markets. Is this fair? We roughly followed an Elliott wave 1, 2, like 3, 4, 5 pattern. It's not as obvious here, but generally what you saw happen was that Bitcoin had a massive crash, then a sort of bear flag right here, then we fell down, and then we didn't actually have that really 4 wave. We basically just had the 5 wave. So basically in this cycle, we had a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Like the 4 wave is almost non-existent. That's because there was very, very, very poor sentiment back there during 2018. We made content all the way through this bear market. We made content all the way through this bear market. We analyze these charts every single day. I can zoom in here and I can talk all day long about this inverse head and shoulders pattern here in June and July of 2018. We can talk all day about all these charts. We're not going to save time, obviously, but we're very familiar with these charts here at this channel. This is something that we've been doing for a very long time. That's one of the reasons you subscribe to this channel. We have seniority over the vast majority of technical analysts in the cryptocurrency space because we've just simply been here longer. And so we also saw a similar 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pattern playing out here. But so far, Bitcoin is most similarly mirroring what took place in 2022. So was $60,000 the bottom of the bear market? And where do we go from here? I'm not convinced that $60,000 was the bottom of the cycle. And the reason that I'm not convinced that $60,000 was the bottom of the cycle is because we're actually very soon. It's only been a little while into the cycle, right? The cycle is not very long. We've only seen Bitcoin dropping for 120 days. If you look at the overall cycle history, what you've seen take place is that the 4-year halving cycles have been approximately 360 to 370 days to bear market bottom. In fact, this bear market bottom, the actual bottom over here, Bitcoin took approximately 630 days to fully bottom out. If you call this the bottom and then that's just a double bottom, then you'd say 413 days. So we'll just say 413 days. Then 371 days, or give or take, as you can see here. Over here, we saw, give or take, about 385 days, maybe a little bit shorter than that right there, about 378 days. That's more accurate. And so with Bitcoin only being down, as you can see, 52% in 120 days, I'm just not convinced that the bottom is in. Why would the bottom be in? Why would it? Just genuinely, why would the bear market bottom be in? You see, we are in a bear market, which means we are in a predominant trend that is pointing down. We have to understand that there must be a rationale behind every position that we take. Why would the bear market be over? Seriously. Why? Give me one good answer why the bear market should be over. Oh, well, Jeb, we dropped 52%. So Bitcoin has a history of dropping 77%. And it also has a history of dropping for a lot longer than this. That matters for a reason I'm about to explain. If Bitcoin dropped the same way that it did in the last cycle, if it just repeated history, it would bottom out at $27,000 in October of 2026. Current bear market, last bear market. See? If you don't believe me, I'll just go ahead and drag it over. As you can see, $28,000 October 12th, not October 2nd, sorry, October 12th. So if you're going to say that the bear market is over, you need to defend that. You need to defend that. I'm not going to try and call the bottom. We said that it's going to drop down to 58,000. We just bounced off of 60. That prediction came true. I am not going to try and give you an exact bottom, because calling the exact bottom of a bear market is just as foolish as trying to call the exact top of a bull market. But what I am going to say is that if you're going to claim that the bear market is over, you must have some evidence to defend that thesis. And I don't personally see any evidence to say that the bear market's over. It's been very short. It's been very shallow. Jeff, it's not been very shallow. Yeah, it has. Compared to history, it actually has. I know it doesn't feel that way, but it has. For context, our entire bear market in the last bear market would put us here. Like, our entire bear market thus far, the entire bear market was wave 1 of the last bear market. Almost to the T. I mean, almost exactly that deep. You see that? So this has been a very small bear market thus far. If that was the bottom, this will go down in history as the smallest bear market in history. And if this was the bottom, then to be honest with you, I think the super cycle theory is still intact. Because if you're going to say that Bitcoin's going to go on a rally for the next 4 years, that's small enough you could actually call it a mid-cycle crash. That theory makes no sense and does not hold water, and I am not saying that that's what we're doing. I'm simply saying that this is a small correction. It's that simple. Now, what does that mean? That means that there is probably going to be more correction to come. We did not actually tag the 200, by the way. The 200 moving average has actually not been touched yet. It's here at 57,800. Now, there is a precedent of this taking place in other markets. For example, we would fall back down to almost the 200 moving average in March of 2020 in QQQ, December of 2018 in QQQ, August of 15th in QQQ. So this is something that's taken place on the QQQ. It's something that I believe you've also seen take place a few times on SPY. We almost tagged the 200, but not quite. So it is possible, if we're to say that Bitcoin is in an extremely powerful long-term bull market, it absolutely is. It absolutely is possible. But I just don't see it because Bitcoin has been tracking with the bear market cycles perfectly thus far. Bitcoin is following the exact same structure, as you can see, as the previous bear market. So what I think you're going to see happen is that this bottom right here was probably either this bottom or this bottom. I don't know which one, but probably one of those two bottoms, and then you probably have to see the rest of this take place. Now, the good news for you bull is that the bottom took 200, this major like low here at about 20,000, hitting the previous all-time high. That took us 210 days in the last bear market cycle. In this case, it took us 120. So the bear market is basically on fast forward, and we're probably going to use slightly different structure than we did in the past. What we're likely to see from here is this part of the bear market is left remaining. Most of the crash is over. Most of the crash is over. As far as price is concerned, Bitcoin dropping from 126 down to $60,000 is a $66,000 drop. I'm not sure about you, but I don't personally think that Bitcoin is going to drop $66,000 from $60,000 because then it'd be trading at less than 60. It'd be trading at $6,000 below spot price, below zero. I'm sorry, I just don't. I don't personally see that taking place. So the majority of the price decline has already occurred. What we're likely to see now is probably a couple more big flush outs. And then you're going to see it get really boring for a while. You're going to see it get really boring for a while because that's what the whales want. They want the market to be really boring. Here's how a bear market happens. And this is why the institutions and the powerful players want bear markets to take place. They want them to take place because the bear markets they go through two phases. Phase one, crash and burn, baby. Whole thing absolutely evaporates. Market just gets decimated, just absolutely destroyed. Like the price crashes really hard. And then it gets really boring for like 6 months. And everybody who did not leave because of the pain leaves because of the boredom. And that is capitulation from the two different kinds of holders. The people that are scared from the price dropping, and then the people that aren't scared from the price dropping, but they're just bored, and they think, oh my gosh, I can get a better return somewhere else. So they sell, or they at least don't buy, and so they leave too. That leaves the stubborn people like me months and months and months and months to buy your Bitcoin because Bitcoin is not dead. No, Jeffrey Epstein was not Satoshi. There's been a lot of fun about that. No, I do not believe for a second that Saylor is going to get liquidated. He doesn't have a liquidation price. That is a straight-up lie. If you see anybody saying, we're below Saylor's liquidation price. Yeah, where are those posts now? Because we're $10,000 below what everybody said was Saylor's liquidation price. His loan is not on Morpho, you guys. It's convertible debt, some of which is out in decades. He doesn't have a liquidation price. He has dividends he has to pay, and he's got 2.5 years of cash to cover it. He's fine. There's going to be an enormous amount of buying coming out of strategy very soon. They're going to hit 1 million Bitcoin in this bear market, most likely. So you have an option here. You can think to yourself, I'm going to leave, I'm going to head for the hills because screw this, I'm out. Or you can do what the big players are doing, all the exchanges are doing, all the whales are doing, and you can see this as a buying opportunity. At the end of the day, Bitcoin is very likely to make a lower low. It's probably going to drop down to a lower low, although this is probably a major bear market low, right? $60,000 is probably a major cycle low, but it's probably going to make a lower low somewhere in the 50s, and then that's probably going to be the end. Like I said, most of the price decline is over. $67,000 is a generational entry. In history, let me show you this chart. In history, anything below the 100 moving average is what we would consider a fantastic entry on Bitcoin. You can see anything below the 100 moving average. I showed this chart on our X account the other day. Anything below the 100 moving average, as you can see, is a generational entry. It is a fantastic entry, and that's exactly what Bitcoin is doing right now. It is well below the 100 moving average. So $67,000, a great entry. I'm not saying you should wait until 50K to buy. No, that's foolish because you will probably miss out. This is a fantastic zone to be buying if you're going to hold for 2 years minimum. Absolutely, but it could go lower. It could go lower. I'm not going to try and predict the bottom. We predicted it going down to 60K. We got that right. I'm not currently convicted enough to make another prediction about where the local bottom could be, but I highly doubt that the bear market's going to drop us any lower than like 40K. Are we going to go down there? Probably not. We're probably not even going to go down there. So that's kind of my take on that. At the end of the day, the most important thing is that you load up on Bitcoin for the long term. You stick that crap in cold storage. You don't take out loans against it. You keep it off the exchanges. It is tempting. It is tempting to borrow money to buy Bitcoin. And if we went even lower, down like 60% from all-time high, you could possibly make that work. You need to be very careful, and you need to know what you're doing, because if you're not careful, you can end up screwing yourself over. But it is something that you could make work. But if you got, I just see so many people right now on these different loans, and they're so close to their liquidation prices. There's one guy over on X that's getting really famous for all the wrong reasons, and he's got like $700,000, $800,000 worth of Bitcoin in a Coinbase Morpho loan, and he had to sell all of his stocks to service the debt on the loan to push the liquidation price down to 58,000. Just barely avoided getting liquidated on 10 years worth of Bitcoin holdings. So guys, security is of the utmost importance. We talk about this all the time. It is so very important that you stay safe while you're browsing online, and this is why I don't want you to lose your Bitcoin to a Bitcoin crash or to hackers and thieves. And so that's why today's stream is brought to you in part by NordVPN. If you guys have not already, I highly encourage you to sign up for NordVPN with the link in the description box down below, or by going to nordvpn.com/Jeb. The reason you're going to want to do that is because NordVPN is going to help keep you safe while you browse online, because there are scammers, thieves, hackers, evil people out there that are trying to steal from you every single day. NordVPN is going to keep you safe in a multitude of different ways. Number one, every single one of the plans actually has NordVPN, obviously. But if you get the Plus plan here, which is my personal favorite, you're going to get access to the anti-malware and browsing protection, the ad and tracker blocker, and the password manager, all of which will keep you safe and organized while you browse online. You can get this for the low price of $376 a month. And all you have to do is get the 2-year annual plan. For $105, you're going to get 28 months of NordVPN absolutely for free. That is a fantastic deal, so make sure to go to nordvpn.com/Jeb. All right, let's read some chat. If it goes to 10K, I'm definitely taking a loan out. Stay out of debt if you can. Yeah, debt is something that people are going to be talking about quite a lot. Your drawing is confirming a cup and handle formation, Jeb. Yes, I mean, the beautiful thing is that is kind of what's going on here, and that is what this bear market will probably be remembered as. Inverse head and shoulders pattern, handle, bull market. Let's take a minute to talk about that. Where's the next where is the next bull market? Where's the next bull market? Where's the next bull market? Apologies, I can't speak. Where's the next bull market going to go? Well, we have seen relatively consistent diminishing returns. Now, the diminishing returns is probably going to fall off because it can only diminish for so long, right? Before Bitcoin's flat, and it's just not going to be. But the first bull market here was 13,000% tall. This bull market was 2,000% tall, about a fifth as large. This bull market was 700% tall, about a fifth as large. Now, are we going to see only 126% bull market? No, because that would just put us back to all-time high. So what we're likely going to see happen is probably somewhere a little under 700%, but above, I'd say, like above 200 to 300%. So what I expect to take place is that Bitcoin is probably going to go up towards $250,000 in the next cycle, depending on macroeconomic factors. We saw Bitcoin go to 20K, then we saw Bitcoin go to 70K, then we saw Bitcoin go to 126K. Pretty solid returns. If Bitcoin comes down here, there's a very real likelihood that this rally, which was kind of stunted, to be honest with you, ends up being smaller than the one that follows. And so I believe that what you'll end up seeing happen is Bitcoin going to at least $250,000 in the next cycle, which is why I'm loading up on Bitcoin at 67,000, because I'm very excited to see where that takes us, right? I'm very excited to see where that takes us. For example here, if we manage to hold our current bottom, then that actually means that we've held this long-term uptrending level of support. I'm not convinced that we're going to hold this long-term uptrending level of support. I think we might actually fall a little bit beneath it here. So, for example, we might fall down here, right? But even if you do see Bitcoin fall down to, let's say, 50,000, and then we had to reset this uptrend, then that's fine. Let's look at these uptrends. Where does this take us? You just kind of project out, and Bitcoin is very easily making a run up here towards like $250,000, $300,000. I would expect the next cycle to bring Bitcoin to somewhere between $150,000 and $300,000. And so that's why I'm loading up on Bitcoin at $66,000. I have entries on Bitcoin that I made at $63,000 just yesterday. I'm very happy about those. Very, very pleased with those entries, and I'm going to continue making entries. If we end up seeing if we end up seeing a major crash down below 60,000, I'm going to load up even more, right? Okay, here. We also have this right here. We could possibly see Bitcoin move up here to the top of this channel, right? We would see that be about a $200,000 Bitcoin. So $200,000 is about a 3x from where we are right now. Pretty solid. Now, there's a pretty high possibility that if we did hit that level, that we would probably break it, right? So we could come up here, and we could actually break through that, maybe up towards like 300,000, and then break down for a bear market, having a bear market bottom somewhere around, I don't know, 100,000. I would not be at all surprised to see the next bear market bottom being at 100K. I really wouldn't. I would not be surprised at all to see the next bear market bottom being $100,000. Why would that be? Well, so far, our bear market bottoms have been approximately 20% below the prior all-time high. So this bear market low is 23% below 20K. This bear market bottom, as of right now, is 11% below all-time high. Let's say we drop down to 50, it'll be 24% below. That's fine. Then if we look over here, 24% below 100K is 93,000. I kind of doubt that we'd break 100, so you'd probably be looking at 100,000 as the bear market bottom. I genuinely believe that the bottom of the next bear market is going to be somewhere around 100,000. If the bottom of the next bear market is going to be somewhere around 100,000 and we'd be expecting a 50 to 65% crash, then that would put the next bull market top between between $225 and $300,000. If you dropped 60% off of 300K, where does that put you? That puts you at 120, right? So I would anticipate that our bottom of this bear market and the top of the next bull market, which is really what we're trying to trade here on this big, gigantic swing trade, what I would really anticipate happening is that you're going to see a bear market low taking place somewhere in here, right? Somewhere before like summer's out, somewhere in this zone. And then I would anticipate you seeing the bull market top somewhere out here, probably in 29, probably up here, right? This is what I think is going to take place. I think you're going to see something like this happen. I think you're going to see Bitcoin bottom out, and you're going to see Bitcoin basically ride these uptrends all the way up here, up towards about 300K. And that's where the next 4-year halving cycle is going to take us. And we're going to see the halving cycle play out just the same way that we always have. The four-year cycle has absolutely been vindicated. The super cycle did not happen. And so at the end of the day, what we have is we have an excellent opportunity to buy and acquire Bitcoin. And guys, look, you need to understand there's a lot more that goes into this. We do a lot of charting behind the scenes. If I came on here and I showed you every single chart, we'd be here for a long time. I do try to show you as much as I possibly can, but there are a lot of reasons to believe that Bitcoin is going to trade at multiple six figures in the next cycle. If you think about that, like why would it not, right? So we've seen Bitcoin go on just a continuous bull market since its inception. Sure, it's had massive bear markets, but it's been on basically one massive bull market. Why would it not break through all-time high and probably at least, double all-time high like it did this time? If it doubled all-time high like it did in this bull market that we just had, then the next bull market would take us to $250,000, right? So why wouldn't it do that? Oh, well, what about quantum? What about quantum? Quantum is a threat to everything, not just to Bitcoin. Okay, Jeb, but I've heard that argument. I want something better than that. Okay, fine. How about this? Quantum is actually not a threat to the Bitcoin network. It is a threat to individual wallet addresses. Those individual wallet addresses can be set up to be quantum resistant in a way that you cannot use even a quantum computer to reverse engineer the private key out of the public key, which means that about 75% of Bitcoin in circulation can be made quantum resistant without a network upgrade. So that means worst case scenario, you see quantum computing come out of nowhere and it takes over. And it takes over 2 to 3 million Bitcoin, and those 2 to 3 million Bitcoin that were probably mostly lost keys, lost coins. For example, they're in landfills or Satoshi's coins or something get put back into circulation. You basically have a one-time only 25 to 30% increase in the supply of Bitcoin, and it wasn't new Bitcoin; it was Bitcoin that was lost, that was refound because of the quantum. And what ends up happening is it gets put back into circulation while everybody else is still active, is actually totally fine. Is that really the end of the world? No, that would trigger a bear market. Oh yeah, Bitcoin's price would drop 70%, but is that the end of the network? No, it's not the end of the network at all. And by the way, let's think about quantum a little bit. If you had a quantum computer that was able to crack the single most powerful cryptographic network on planet Earth, don't you think that the people that had that quantum computer either would be, one, good faith actors who would not do that, which let's just throw that out the window because that's not worst case scenario planning. But two, let's say they were bad faith actors. First of all, I'm not sure how you get a bad faith actor that's able to create a multi-billion-dollar quantum computer without it going unnoticed. But we are in the land of make-believe here. If you were actually a terrorist bent on destroying something, you would probably use the quantum computer to hack into military software the world over and get control of nuclear codes, hold the entire world hostage, and try and become dominate the world. Oh, well, I've got all the nuclear launch codes, whatever, It probably would not be used on Bitcoin. And it certainly would not be used on only Bitcoin. So I'm not concerned about quantum. Okay, why else would Bitcoin not go to $250,000 next cycle? Okay, well, what about gold? What about gold? Everybody who bought gold in the last 30 years is trying to sell it right now, and they're like, man, this stupid rock won't move. Everyone who says that gold is going to outperform Bitcoin as a store of value in the long term has clearly never tried to sell physical gold before. It's ridiculously hard. Okay, Jeb, well, what about tokenized gold? What about it? Bitcoin beat tokenized gold at the punch. Bitcoin actually has first mover advantage in that realm. Okay? Gold's been around for longer. Sure has. And the vast majority of the people that buy and hold gold are older. And not to be morbid, but the way that investing works is that generations come and generations go, and older generations pass on wealth to newer generations. And typically newer generations are adopting newer technology, such as Bitcoin. Quantum is not a threat to Bitcoin. Gold is not a threat to Bitcoin. You're going to see mass gold mining out in the solar system within the next 50 years that is going to tap an enormous amount, that is going to cause an enormous amount of gold to be brought into the Earth marketplace, right? Space mining is a very real thing, and it's coming very fast. The next 10 or 20 years, you're going to see that starting. In the next 30 to 40 years, you're going to see it absolutely revitalizing the global economy. And so this is something that we need to consider, is the continuous supply increase on gold, which is not taking place on Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the more scarce asset. So why would Bitcoin not have a major bull market? That's the question I have for you. Why would it not? I mean, the history says that it should, so why would it not? The trend is your friend until it ends. The trend is the 4-year halving cycle. That means that we're having a bear market right now, and the bottom's probably close, but might not be in yet, but it is probably close. And then from there, how do we end up rallying? Of course we're going to rally. Like, it's a foregone conclusion to me. It really is. You know, when I got into the market right here. That's where I got in, right there. I got into Bitcoin right there. If you look on the regular chart, it's down here. I've watched all of this take place. Yes, there's going to be another bull market. I say that with all conviction. And I am not worried about being wrong on that, because I'm quite sure I'm not. Is the bear market bottom in? Probably not. It's probably not in. I don't know for sure if it is, but there's a very real chance that it's not. But is there going to be another bull market? I'm very, very convinced of that. All right, so let's also look at some of the structure here and see how this is all taking place. What you generally end up seeing Bitcoin do is Bitcoin has a very clear pattern that it follows here. Bitcoin will break below the 50 weekly moving average, indicating we're starting the bear market. We drop back down to the 100 moving average. We bounce back up, reject off of the 50. We fall through the 100. We fall down to the 200. And then either we bottom out there, or we end up dropping back down to the 300 and we bottom out there. In history, we bottomed out at the 200. In this market, we might bottom out at the 200 as well, although we did get down here very, very quickly, so I'm not necessarily convinced. We saw the same thing take place here. Bear market, fell through the 50, rallied up to the 50, fell down to the 100, broke the 100, fell down to the 200, bounced and went into bull market. So this is the same structure that Bitcoin plays out every single time. In this market, we fell through the 50, back down to the 100, rallied up to the 50, rejected, fell down to the 100, fell through. Now we fall back down to the 200, and then we basically have to guess at this point whether or not Bitcoin holds the 300 or holds the 200. That's more or less the calculus here. But the bottom is probably somewhere above 50,000. $60,000 was just tagged. And so at this point in time, the question becomes whether or not Bitcoin is going to go to 50,000 or whether or not 60K was the bottom. I personally think that you get really boring here, and then you have one last fake out, one last flash crash down to 50 or maybe even 53, and then there's your bear market bottom. You come down here, not necessarily to 50, but probably down to like 53. You tag the 300 moving average at this point, and then you move on from there. And that's your bear market. That's your bear markets, folks. That's all she wrote. And then Bitcoin starts going back up. Probably sometime in late summer, probably sometime around the late summer. It could happen sooner. I mean, this market has been crashing very rapidly. I mean, yesterday we did see a $10,000 red candle. $10,000 red candle. First $10,000 red candle in the history of Bitcoin. So this bear market has absolutely been on fast forward. It's absolutely been on fast forward, and that is something that absolutely might continue. Jeb, you're the best with predictions. Thank you so much. Draw a trend line across the peaks on the 1 week candle. That's your new top. Yeah, we just looked at that. That'd point to about 200K. I think it's going to go higher than that. I'd be really surprised if Bitcoin only hit 200K. Let's see. After big crash happens, the ratio from upcoming bottom after crash to next cycle top is going to be huge. Yeah, let's look at that. So basically, when you're trading the cycles, essentially what you're doing is you're setting up a trade, right? So let's say you entered in right now at 67 and you're rapidly losing this really awesome entry. Your worst case scenario, in my opinion, is Bitcoin drops to 50K, right? Okay. So let's look at our return if we went to all-time high. If we just went to all-time high, that puts your risk-to-reward ratio at 3.61. Let's say Bitcoin goes up to where I actually think it'll hit, where it'll actually top of the next cycle, which is like 250. That's a 10-to-1 risk-to-reward ratio. That's why that dip got bought so hard. That's why the dip got bought so dang hard down there at 60K. That's why it got bought, because of that risk-to-reward ratio. Because the exchanges understand that risk-to-reward dynamic. And so they are very interested in acquiring Bitcoin right there. And in fact, let's do something. I'm not going to show this because it's, private information and everything, but I'm going to come over here, and I think I'm actually going to buy some Bitcoin on stream. I'm not going to show it, like I said, but I'm going to do it. Recent buys. I've been making small, tiny little buys for a while here. I'm going to make another small little buy. I'm going to buy $3,000 worth of Bitcoin live on air. $3,000. Let's put that in over on the exchange. Dump that in. Dump the cash in. Let's go over here and trade it. I've just been kind of loading up, doing a few $1,000s here and there, day in and day out. Buy. Boom. There's the buy order. Let's see if there's any way that I can show that. Give me 1 second. Here. I can do this. I can do this. I can show the screenshot. There we go. Just bought. Right there. Here's the buy order. 935. There's the proof. There's your proof. Do with that what you will. But I really do genuinely believe that right now is a fantastic time to be loading up on Bitcoin. 68,000 is a great price. Could we go down to 50? Yes, we could. We really could. We could easily go down to $50,000. But the point here is not to get the exact bottom. The point here is to get in. The point is to get an investment. Am I using any leverage? None. None whatsoever. If we went down to the 300 moving average, I'd be tempted to pull out some debt to buy Bitcoin. But the thing is, I don't need to, right? I could, but I don't need to. I'm sitting on a cash pile that's I have more than $250,000 in cash right now because I prepared for the bear market. I was prepared for this. I was ready for this to take place. We predicted this was going to happen. In the, behind the scenes, I protected our family by preparing for this eventual possibility, and I'm very happy that it happened, to be quite honest with you. And I'm sorry. I mean, it's very difficult for a lot of people, but we were ready for this, and we followed the financial sovereignty way. And I want you guys to follow the financial sovereignty way also, which is why we created the Financial Sovereignty Academy. So if you guys have not already, I highly encourage you to sign up for the FinSov Academy. If you guys are not familiar, this is our money management course. This is where we teach a tried and true method called the Financial Sovereignty Way. The 10 steps of the FinSov way look like this. We choose FinSov. Then we live on less than we make. Then we maintain a budget. Then we save a $2,500 starter emergency fund. We declare war on debt. We save a fully funded 3 to 6 month emergency fund. We invest 15% of household income for retirement. In this case, that can go into Bitcoin. We pay off our house early. We invest for extra wealth generation. And then we live FinSov. This is the system that our family operates on. This is what we do. This is how we live. And this is how we are building wealth and maintaining that wealth in the cryptocurrency space. So make sure to sign up for the FinSov Academy with the link in the description box down below. There's a coupon code already applied. So make sure to check that out down below. Let's read a little bit of chat. Wait, what are we, long or short? I acquired spot for the investment portfolio just now. This time it was like 7x from the bottom to the last top. Next time if it goes to 250K, then 250K is 10x. It will go for sure to 250K in the next cycle. Like, how wouldn't it? Yeah, I mean, if the cycle bottom was at 60K, let's say the cycle bottom was at 60K and we did the same thing we did in the last cycle, which was 800%. That would put Bitcoin at $500,000 next cycle. I don't think that's going to happen. First of all, I think the bottom is probably lower than 60K. But second of all, I also think that you're probably going to see Bitcoin. I think you're probably going to see Bitcoin having a slightly smaller rally, probably not 700%. So if we do drop down to like 54 and we rally, 400%, that's a $300,000 Bitcoin. That's a respectable return. That's a really respectable return if you get an entry there. Because let's see, how long does it take to get a 400% return in the stock market? If you bought the bottom of the '08 housing market crash, you got a 900% return. If you bought stocks, the S&P 500 10 years ago, you're up 200%. These are very powerful returns that we're talking about here, guys. They're very, very powerful returns. If you bought QQQ 10 years ago, you're up 482%. We're talking about up 300 to 400% from here within the next 2 to 3 years. These are very serious and powerful returns we're talking about. Very serious, very powerful, very big returns, right? So at the end of the day, what we want to see happen is we want to see ourselves building up that investment portfolio, because it's very much, it's what's going to help bring us financial sovereignty. All right, let's read some chat. And hey guys, by the way, if you have not already, I also highly encourage you to check out the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy. We have been teaching CT2A for over 7.5 years, almost 8 years. This is our $1 million in sales plaque because we have sold so many copies of CT2A. This is a fantastic course that's going to teach you everything that you need to know about technical analysis. It is the best, hands down, the best technical analysis course in the cryptocurrency market. There are over 5,000 people that have gone through CT2A, and you should too. And the reason that you should is because CT2A is going to teach you across over 60 videos and over 12 hours of content exactly how to do technical analysis. Give me a 1 in chat if you guys have gone through CT2A. Many of you guys in chat have over the years. This is a fantastic course that you should not sleep on, and there is a discount code that you can get access to right now. If you use the link in the description box down below, there is a discount code. You should be able to get 20% off using coupon code JEB20. All you got to do is come in here, hit enroll in course, and then type in JEB20, and then you're going to be getting access to that discount. Very, very important that you learn how to do technical analysis. It's because we understand technical analysis that we were able to call this bear market almost to the T, and it's because of financial sovereignty that we were able to manage our wealth appropriately during the crash, so that we could build wealth and survive and even thrive during this bear market. So if you have not already, I highly encourage you to check out both of those products with the link in the description box down below. Really appreciate all of you guys being here. Going to have to wrap it out here in the next couple of minutes. But this has been a lot of fun, and I'm definitely looking forward to our video coming out later on today at 2 o'clock, so stay tuned for that. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the earlier live stream time. We are testing out, I don't want to announce that we've actually launched it, but we are testing out earlier live stream times. I'm probably going to be looking at about 8:45 to 9 o'clock. Tell me in the chat, what do you think about those times? Those are times that, believe it or not, I'll actually be able to be significantly more consistent in, which is our goal. I want us to find a time that we are going live at the same time every day. So we've been experimenting with later, we've been experimenting with earlier, we've been experimenting with 10 o'clock. And so far, it actually seems like earlier might be easier. And in future, it would allow us to kind of catch the market open and see what Bitcoin is doing as well. So we're looking at about 8:45 to 9 o'clock. What do you guys think about that? Please tell me in chat as we come to our conclusion here. In conclusion, bear markets are a part of Bitcoin. You have to be prepared for them. You have to make sure that you are ready for them, because they are an excellent opportunity for you to build wealth. They really are. They're an excellent opportunity for you to stack sats, build wealth. And so I encourage you to take advantage of this opportunity. If you find yourself in a in a market where you are down and you have lost some money, then I highly encourage you to just do what you can to try and learn and do a better job in the future. Give me 1 second. Go ahead and take care of something. There we go. I highly encourage you, if you have not already, to evaluate the lessons that we're giving you guys on how to actually build wealth, on how to save money, on how to have cash on hand, how to be careful with leverage, how to be careful with debt. And I highly encourage you, if you have not already, to subscribe to the channel as we continue bringing you guys more content. At the end of the day, I want you guys to understand that I have lost a lot of money too. Let me tell you what happened in 2020, 2021, 2022, just so you understand that when I say, hey, we're doing well this cycle, I am not perfect. I lost over $1 million in the last bear market, over $1 million of my portfolio going down. I rode it all the way to the bottom. I lost a bunch of cash. At the top, I was sitting on $500,000 of cash. By the bottom, it was very hard down in 2022. It was very, very, very difficult. So I understand that what that feels like. And by the way, I was also just married. I had just gotten married. I had a child. I had another child on the way because there was one bacon, you know what I mean? It was scary. It was terrifying. And I screwed up. I really did. I put our family through hell because I was not careful with the money. I was not careful with the money. Up at the top, I made $250,000 in a week at the end of 2021. In 1 week, I made $250,000. By the end of 2022, I was struggling to find $10,000 a month or so, which sounds like a lot, but when you have a mortgage, you have kids, you have a wife, you have an employee, etc., that's hard. That's really hard. It was very difficult to find enough cash, and we were very low on cash flow. It was from those ashes that the ideas of FinSolve were born. It was from my foolishness. My net worth during the last bear market went down over 90%, and it didn't need to. It didn't need to happen. It happened because I was stupid. That's why it happened, because I made dumb decisions. That doesn't have to be you. And if that is you, I want you to know that was me too. Okay? So we have all made mistakes. And at the end of the day, I need you to understand that you are loved. Jesus sees you. I see you. Again, it doesn't matter that I see you, but more importantly, Christ sees you. And there is a real God that is really in heaven, who really loves you, and your existence is far more important than how much money you can make. Your existence is far more important than whether or not you performed the way that you needed to in this bull market. As men, especially, we get so caught up on performance anxiety about, oh my gosh, am I making enough money? Am I making enough money? Am I doing a good enough job? Am I working hard enough? And all those things are good things to concern yourself with. They're good things to think about. But if you're not careful, you can also get to a position where you're basing your self-worth on whether or not you did everything right. And while we should strive to do better in the future, and we shouldn't make the same mistake twice, your self-worth does not come from whether or not you played this cycle right. Your self-worth, my dear friend, comes from the fact that you are made in the image of God. It comes from the fact that God fashioned you in your mother's womb. He knew your name before you were born, and He loves you, and He cares about you, and He will provide for you if you give your life to Him. I don't worry about money anymore. One, because I've made good decisions with it. Not because I was born an expert, but because I made every mistake under the sun, and I realized how to do it right, and I realized that the Word of God has the right answers, and so I just did what God said, and it works. Be diversified. Avoid debt. Have cash. Invest. Be generous. Tithe. All these different principles that we follow. The best money that I ever invest is the 10% that we give to the church. Obviously, it's not an investment, it's generosity, but I consider it an investment. I give it to God. God can take the other 90%. He does way better with 90% than I could with 100. At the end of the day, you're not a screw up because you made a mistake. Okay? What you need to think about is how important it is that you give your life to Jesus Christ. I did 6 years ago. And I made a commitment on that day that I did. Not that day, but a few months after. That any time I was tempted to not talk about Jesus, I was going to consider that an opportunity to preach the gospel, because obviously that was the devil not wanting me to talk about Jesus. So if the devil doesn't want me to talk about Jesus, then that must mean that God wants me to in that moment. So please give your life to Christ. I love you. Far more importantly than that, the Lord Jesus Christ loves you. And He loves you even if you just lost a lot of money. He loves you even if you just got liquidated. He loves you even if your wife is pissed off at you. He loves you even if your family won't talk to you, and even if you're getting made fun of. He loves you. So that's it. Hope you enjoyed today's video. I'm going to wrap it out. Before I go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching, as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.